Hi everyone, in this video I'll be taking you with me on my trip to Spain that I took with my dad back in April of 2024. So starting off in Barcelona, we stayed at a cozy little hostel in the L'Eixample neighborhood, which was lovely. We explored Las Ramblas, which is one of their more touristy areas, hitting the Plaza Real along the way, then stopping for snacks at the Mercat de la Boqueria, which blew our minds. After that, we made our way down to this port on the Mediterranean, and then made our way into the Gothic Quarter where we found some really cool art museums. And of course, we had to take in the stunning Gothic architecture of these cathedrals, and all of the beauty that the streets of Barcelona have to offer. We really went at a great time of the year because in April it's not too hot and there aren't too many tourists. Later that day we made our way over to Casa Batlló, which was the first of many Antoni Gaudí architectural designs, and I've gotta say, this place completely blew our minds. It was so fun to look at and really cool to learn about. We also were able to make our way up to the rooftop and went at sunset, so we got really stunning views of the city from up there. On our way out, we walked by another Gaudí creation, La Pedrera Casamila. And that was about it for day one. The next morning, we made our way over to another Gaudí creation, Park Güell, which sits atop a hill overlooking Barcelona, and this place was so cool. I'm really glad we made it up there. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, just one of many that we got to see during this trip. All of the tiles were really pretty, and the shapes were just really unique and interesting. We pretty quickly fell in love with Gaudí's very unique style and really interesting eye to design. On our way out, we took in some of the sights overlooking Barcelona and stopped by another one of Gaudí's cool buildings before heading to his crown jewel, his absolute masterpiece, the Sagrada Familia. This is one of those places that you absolutely need to get tickets way in advance, and I'm so glad that we did. It was just spectacular. Like, there just aren't words to describe this place. So many hours and years of construction and planning and design have gone into every single piece of this place, and it shows. My favorite part, hands down, were these stained glass windows. We went at sunset and it was so stunning. By this time we had worked up an appetite and had to get some paella and some drinks before calling it a night. The next day, I took a day trip up along the Costa Brava and actually took my very first train ride, which was a really cool experience. It was pretty empty, so I pretty much had the entire train to myself, which was really cool. We arrived in Boulogne and I took a taxi over to the Marimutra Botanical Gardens, which were so stunning. I mean, look at these views! I mean, probably top 3 most beautiful places I've ever been. That water was just so crystal clear and blue. Ugh, it was amazing. The place was pretty empty, but I did run into this couple who offered to take a picture of me so I could have one for my mom, which was so cute. I spent probably an hour just wandering around, taking in the sights, before making my way down this curvy little path towards the ocean, or I guess the Mediterranean Sea, and I found this little bay called Cala de Sant Francesc, and ended up dipping into the water a little bit. It was freezing cold, but worth it. There seemed to be mostly just local families hanging out, taking advantage of the day, and not too many tourists, which I really appreciated. At this point, I decided I should probably head back into town, grab a bite to eat. I ended up near the beach along the boardwalk where I got some calamari and a drink, as well as a little bit of ice cream before making my way back to Barcelona. The next morning, my dad and I strolled through Parque de la Ciutadella, and the scent of orange blossoms filled the air. It was so magical and peaceful, and it was just a great way to end our time in Barcelona before heading over to Madrid. We almost missed our train to Madrid, but thankfully we ended up making it. Our first night in Madrid, we explored our neighborhood a little bit and found these delicious butter shrimp that I'll never forget. We started off our first full day in Madrid by heading to Parque del Retiro, which was really big, but super beautiful. It had this crystal glass conservatory that we couldn't go into, but was beautiful nonetheless, and these stunning, fragrant rose gardens that I could have spent all day in. There were lots of people out enjoying the beautiful day, and we also saw this cute couple doing a pregnancy photo shoot. We also got to see some wildlife. We came across these peacocks that were just out and about, and also saw this little duck family. And they also had little boats for rent that you could take out on the water. On our way back into town, we passed by City Hall, which was breathtaking, and then we made our way over to El Prado Art Museum. On our way in, we heard this guy playing Spanish guitar and stopped to listen. The outside of the museum itself was just beautiful to look at, the architecture and the pillars, and they didn't allow photos or videos, so I only got these 2 short clips. Afterwards, we stopped for refreshments and made a very important discovery. We love vermouth. We ended up having quite a few during our few days in Madrid, and even tried figuring out how to get a bottle home. There was also no shortage of tapas, especially at the Mercado de San Miguel, which had such a wide variety of seafood and paella. At the end of the day, I decided to take a dip into the Madrid nightlife and ended up at this really neat cocktail lounge that used to be an adult cinema. They had some silent movies going, which was cool. Our next day in Madrid started off with a visit to the Royal Palace. We didn't get to go inside because, to be honest, we didn't want to stand in line to get tickets, but we did check out the gardens, and of course the cathedral next door, which was really stunning inside. The columns and the stained glass were breathtaking. We also discovered that you could go underneath the chapel, and they had these really cool, eerie, but interesting and beautiful crypts that you could visit and wander around. We could have spent hours and hours taking in all of the details of the cathedral and the next door royal palace. Not to mention these stunning views of the city. We shamelessly ate and drank our way through the country, stopping at our favorite tavern once again, a local bakery, and then also getting pasta for dinner. This would be our last night in Madrid, and there was one more thing that I just had to see before we left, and that was a flamenco show. This was one of the highlights of the trip for me. Photo and video weren't allowed, so I didn't get very much of that, but it's something that I'll definitely remember for the rest of my life. The next morning we hopped on a train through the beautiful Spanish countryside down south to our third and final stop for this trip, the lovely city of Granada. After staying in the large cities of Barcelona and Madrid, Granada felt like a much smaller and cozier little town. We pretty much only added this leg of the trip for one reason, and that was to visit the Alhambra, which is the crown jewel of Granada and a palace or fortress that is one of the most famous and best preserved Islamic architecture monuments in the world. We spent pretty much our entire full day in Granada there, just taking it all in, and we'll never forget how impactful and massive the whole thing was. Everything was so intricate and ornate, and there were tons of beautiful gardens and fountains. Like I said, we did spend pretty much an entire full day there, but you could go back over and over again and still not take in every single detail because this place is just that incredible. The complex is also situated on top of a hill with 360-degree views of the city that spans for miles and miles into the distance. Getting to visit the Alhambra, just another one of the many UNESCO World Heritage sites that we got to see during this trip, was absolutely worth the trip down there to Granada, and we would do it again in a heartbeat if we could. Our tickets didn't include access to every part of the fortress, and we wish we were able to see that final part, but even so, we did spend the entire day taking in the rest of the complex, and there was no shortage of beauty to admire. We ended the day at Anthony Bourdain's favorite wine bar in Granada, which was absolutely amazing. And the next day, which was sadly our last full day in Spain, we spent strolling around Granada some more, stopping by the Royal Chapel and the Granada Cathedral, taking in all of the beautiful Baroque architecture the city has to offer. And finally, we took a quick stroll through the Garcia Lorca Rose Gardens before making our way to the airport. This was easily one of the most memorable trips of my life, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to go, and thank you so much for watching and tagging along. Bye!